Good afternoon. This is a tropical update on Thursday, August 24th, 2023. As always, my thoughts in this video are mine alone, and making any decisions regarding these two areas of disturbed weather, Franklin and area to watch in the Gulf, please consult the National Hurricane Center and your local officials for the best information for where you're at. So once again, we're going to briefly talk about what is happening with Tropical Storm Franklin, and then we really need to watch with what might happen with our area to watch in the northwestern portion of the Caribbean, moving into the southern Gulf of Mexico over the next few days. This is a close and zoomed in imagery looking from tropicaltidbits.com. There will be a link in the description below this video showing you that Franklin has a better defined circulation today than the messy one that we had yesterday, which seems possible because this has moved now off of Hispaniola yesterday and it's gotten its act together. However, not very quickly at all. And the reason why we're still seeing this to be a struggle is the biggest inhibitor here is that we have a lot of the shear that is approaching from the west. And if you just look at these cloud filaments, this is a pretty good example of showing you just how strong the shear actually is over Franklin's center. So when we look at these cloud filaments, any of the tops that blow up, they get kind of dismantled right away and they get blown off towards the east. The upper level winds here are fairly strong, right around 60 to 70 knots, and this is helping to kind of separate the two centers. We got the low-level center right over here, and we have the mid-level center that might be under the more vigorous deep convection with the bubbling, the kind of the boiling pot of water we call it. And so at the moment, the vortex is not stacked and it's not aligned. And until this gets better aligned due to the shear that's impacting it, the system is not intensifying at the moment at all. And we can confirm this from the recon aircraft. If we take a sample and look at that a little closer, we can see that the center, or when it on their first pass, whatever center they possibly found at this point, was at 995 millibars. Their last pass through the center, 1004 millibars. And actually this matches up pretty well with their last three passes that were right around 1003 and 1004 millibars, which means right now Franklin is not further organizing. It's not strengthening anymore. Maybe even so on their last pass, they got some pretty intense winds. A little bit of a barb here with hurricane force wind gusts and sustained winds, probably because of the deep convection that is in that area happening right within that big mass of thunderstorm complex activity. We're not seeing any indications that the strongest winds are coming all the way around the center on the northwestern side. Even so, we have now a better defined center. We have a closed circulation with northwest winds here. We have westerly winds here. We have south westerly winds, and it's a fully closed low. But until that shear backs off, this is not in no hurry of strengthening at all. And when we go back and look at the image here, we can see that matches up really well, where we have this circulation that is in place. We might even see semblance of what might have been an old little eddy of circulation that might have developed early this morning, kind of wrapped all the way around. This is kind of an indication that the system is struggling. It's not really in a very healthy state for strengthening until the environment out ahead of this gets better, more favorable. We can see indications on that when we actually take a look here at our water vapor imagery. Actually, let's use this one. We can see that the environment out ahead of this right now in the short term is not favorable. We have a weak trough that is right in place, this tut. This is a stretched out area of vorticity at 5,000 feet. So you can picture a trough like this. To the north of the system, we have a ridge of high pressure right over here. So what we're seeing here is the wind flow coming in out of the westerly, fighting the western quadrant of Franklin. And so there's a decoupling, not really decoupling, but the vortex is very tilted in such a way we're seeing a lot of this thunderstorm outflow being exhausted only in one direction versus a better outflow that we would like to see for strengthening with Franklin. That's going to happen in the next few days, but when does it occur? And that's kind of to be announced. If we simply look at, let's bring up the Euro model here. This is the 500 millibar. Actually, let's use the 200 millibar vorticity or wind plot here from the Euro on tropicaltidbits.com. There's our trough right there. Here's kind of that stretched out area of vorticity that I was talking about. There is a second portion of this ridge. Oops, I drew an L. So here's our second ridge, and we have, again, the flow doing this. So where we have Franklin is on the northeastern quadrant of this bubble of high pressure air that is to its southwest. So we're getting westerly wind. But you'll see here on the Euro model, once the shear backs off, it's going to be with the system for another 36 or so hours. And then when we go into tomorrow afternoon, this trough, you can see the line, the arrows here showing you which way the wind is coming from. We can see this trough start to get carved out. And what that's going to allow it to do is we're going to get this ridge over here in the northeastern Caribbean to actually amplify a little bit at 200 millibars. And so now, instead of getting a wind hitting it like this, we're starting to get winds more like this, and this is going to get more optimal once the system continues to head a little north, but the trough too headed south. So now we have a cutoff low here in position over the Dominican Republic and southern Bahamas, leading to an outflow channel of winds that are more conducive for strengthening with Franklin once we get beyond day 2. This is for Saturday morning, when we do expect that this is going to enter a more favorable environment. And once it gets into that favorable environment, it's going to probably remain in this environment for a few days. This is day 4 on Monday. And we can see how this is very healthy by all standards. We have outflow right here. We have outflow here. We have outflow here. And we have very good outflow on the western side. So you could imagine that the system is now barricaded under this subtropical ridge at 200 millibars, which is very ideal, very optimal for Franklin to intensify, possibly at a explosive rate based on the Euro model. And then going out to day 4 and 5, we might see shear pick up again. But now, since Franklin is moving this way with the overall steering flow at 200 millibars, the shear is going to remain fairly light, probably about 5 or 10 knots, and that's going to allow, again, Franklin to further strengthen. It's not until we get beyond day 5 when I think the shear might relax a little bit, just enough to at least prevent further strengthening with Franklin. So now that we talked about Franklin, I know this is going to be kind of a quick video. There's a lot going on behind this video today. We're going to be focusing now on... Actually, I forgot to show you the NHC really quick. Then we're going to focus, what we need to do is on the Gulf of Mexico. So here's the track guidance. Again, the system is going to be moving east-south or east-northeast right now, which it's doing. Because now, again, it's following more of the low level and deep layer steering flow, but the flow is going to change. So this is actually going to turn northward within the next couple of days. And it's now going to more likely safely miss Bermuda. We don't have any more models that do indicate that this is going to hit Bermuda, but it doesn't matter. You're still in the cone of uncertainty, and you still need to make preparations just in case if this shifts back towards the east. The cone of uncertainty is there to protect you all, to making sure you all are prepared for shifts in the guidance envelope, since this is a fairly large cone, and that is abnormally large because of the competing steering influences, what might happen in the next couple of days. Here's the arrival of tropical storm force winds and chances. So we have 8 p.m. on Sunday for Bermuda now, not Sunday morning like we earlier thought. Timings here are going to be variable, since again, it all is about when that launch to the north occurs. Occurs later, then it would be Monday instead of Sunday. If it occurs earlier, it might be Saturday night instead of Sunday. But you get the idea. Bermuda now has a 50 to 60% chance of seeing tropical storm force winds, which is a high enough chance to not rule out any tropical storm force winds in your area. So now that we talked about Franklin very quickly, it's a good idea that we talk now about, let's go here, that we do talk about our area of interest. So if we go back to the satellite imagery, we don't have any disturbed significant weather going on there to kind of do a zoomed in view, but this is where we are watching for any disturbances to develop. They move into the Gulf and they might intensify fairly quickly based on some of the models that we have collected in today's update. So this is, we're going to go and look at the moisture plot here on the Euro forecast. The Euro has been very consistent among the others over the last few days, which usually means we have pretty good confidence from just alone the Euro model indicating some tropical development. The GFS has not been very consistent by any means and has at times not shown anything there, while the CMC and the Icon have continued to show at least some sort of disturbance entering or developing within the Gulf region. So the 700 and 300 moisture plot here from Tropical Tidbits, this is showing you how moist the atmosphere is in green. We got drier colors in brown, and so when we kind of play this through on the Euro forecast, this is for Friday morning, you can see a little bit of a moisture pocket that develops within this envelope of what we call a intertropical convergence zone. It's kind of breaking up at this point. But this is going to help to kind of spool up some spin within this ITCZ that is from the Eastern Pacific all the way into the Northwestern Caribbean, and it kind of attaches itself all the way towards Franklin. So right in the midst of this, we have this pocket of energy and spin that might try to get better consolidated by the weekend. So when we go into Saturday, we can see that the system tries to get going. You can see the wind barbs here, southwesterly flow here. We got northeasterly flow here. So this is not a necessarily closed circulation, but it is well defined by all standards. And this could get the NHC, well, they already have an area to watch on the system by the time we go to day 4, where we again have this nice deep moisture bubble in place. Now, some of you are saying that this is not going to develop into anything significant, I'm sure, when you guys make a comment on today's video. And you're likely to be true on that. The reason why is, well, we got a lot of dry air that is also going to be a competing factor in all of this. What we want to see is a lot of moisture surrounding this bubble, this pocket of spin. And we don't have a lot of that. A lot of this is kind of weighted on the eastern side, and that's because we do got a little bit of shear that is going to be encroaching onto the system. And when we look at that, we do have, again, this 200 millibar flow that is fighting like it did with Franklin. Now it's going to do it with this, only now we're looking at a very weak disturbance here. So any little shear there is might really lead to a lot of problems as far as any tropical development does occur. We've got a little bit of a trough here to the north of the system, so yeah, you can kind of bet on southwesterly flow over the system right around 30 knots, and that equals or equates to shear that's about 30 or 40 knots, and that's why we have the moisture really offset from the center, and systems do not do well in dry air. We need a lot of moisture for strengthening to occur. But according to the Euro model, by early next week, this is Tuesday the 29th, we do see that this pocket eventually consolidates, and we just might squeeze out another named storm in the Gulf. If it is, it might be, forgot the letter H storm. We got a lot of names to talk about these days. It's been a very busy period here, and it still continues to be. And this could make landfall in the Big Bend of Florida, all right? So like northern Florida, Tallahassee, Florida, perhaps Jacksonville, Florida. Might need to be on the lookout for this. This is a little over 5 days out. But if we look again at the previous runs, this has been consistent in some degree. Nothing too significant right now, but it has been indicating that we might see a system try to kind of develop in the Gulf of Mexico, taking full advantage of 32 Celsius waters. Here's a look at the CMC model. If we take a look at our vorticity map, we kind of play this through. There again is our area of broader circulation. Fortunately, we don't have the moisture plot on this. No, we don't. I wish we did. But you can get an idea that this might consolidate a little bit, and it actually shows it hitting the Big Bend of Florida, right where the Euro model has. So at least in a way, we have 50-50 shot on this system, and that goes very well with the NHC, indicating that if we go back here, if we go to the NHC really quickly, we can see that we do have a 50-50 shot, well, 60% chance of this forming in the next 7 days. And we got other models to back that up in a little bit here. So again, we're watching the disturbance in the Gulf in the next over the next 5 to 7 days for potential development, but it's not likely. As if it was likely, we would see it on the GFS and the Icon, which don't have a whole lot impetus on the system at the moment. So when we look at the ensemble forecast from the Euro, we can see a lot of members indicating tropical depression, tropical storm force winds, while again on our other disturbance moving near Bermuda, we have a lot more red colors, which indicate hurricane type model runs or ensemble members, indicating some significant development. So yeah, the Gulf, there is a lot of members on the Euro, enough to really illustrate the 50% chance of tropical formation. But that is all I have in today's video. Thank you all for watching, and have a great rest of your day. I'll be back in the office tomorrow with another tropical update.